What's up, everyone? Thank you for coming back for another episode of Joe's Corner. I know it's been a while. We haven't done one in maybe 4 or 5 months. Life is like that, but, it is what it is. But today, I have a very special guest, someone I've been following for a while now. Goes by the name of Frame of Travel, aka Victor. Say hello, my friend.
Hello, everybody. Nice to meet you.
So, in case you don't know who he is, explain yourself, sir. Let people know where you are, who you are, where they can find you, all that stuff.
Roger. Well, against popular belief, my name is not Frame. My name is actually Victor. So you could just call me Victor. Who am I? I am a guy who moved out here to Japan since 2012 or so, and I've been doing photography kind of professionally and as a hobby ever since like 2015 or so. My photography is generally catered towards, Japan as a topic. However, my main focus, I would like to think, is more kind of like landscape and travel. But I do mix in a little bit of night photography, a little bit of kind of like cyberpunk tones every now and then. And generally right now, I'm currently most active on Instagram. But starting in 2022, I aim to be a little bit more active on platforms such as YouTube and on Twitch.
Which, that's one of the things where I found you first on Instagram, because going through the channels of seeing all the different J-vloggers, or I don't remember what the official term for them is, you see them and going through different things. Then I saw a reoccurrence of these posts, of these certain pictures. That's how I found you, because I only follow a couple photographers, and you're one of them, because every time I look at them, I'm stunned, and I get jealous at the places I can't get to go right now. But I get the
someday.
Yeah, hopefully 2024. I get to vicariously live through you. So I do. Do you have any upcoming plans while we're on this subject? Any plans you want to go anywhere this year? Or
Upcoming plans? Oh well, a little bit secret, but I'm actually trying to get really active on YouTube again, and I've been trying to develop this new format of a video process that I want to go to in order to release content. And one of the places that I want to hit up this year is Togakushi Shrine over in Nagano, as well as like the snow monkeys. And what's the other place? I was talking about this with a friend recently. I think there's a place in Nagano as well that has a bunch of igloos, and you could reserve an igloo to have dinner in. And I just think visually, as a picture, that would just look so awesome. So those are my immediate plans in regards to photography within the next couple months or so.
So when you mentioned igloos, I immediately thought, I don't know if have you seen the bar in, I think it was Las Vegas, where it's the igloo bar, where it's
yes, the ice bar.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you know if there's anything like that up there? Is there anything cool concepts or anything like that?
As a matter of fact, yes, there is. I believe somewhere in Hokkaido, maybe towards Asahikawa area. They're known basically for getting heavily snowed during winter. So I believe they have something similar, kind of like an ice bar. And then when I went to the Yuki Matsuri in Sapporo 2 years ago, they had something similar as well.
Yeah, I figured, for the snow festival they would have some. I didn't know if there was a permanent fixture. Because snow festivals and stuff like that, I figured it'd come out kind of like here in, in America, we get the beer gardens as soon as it hits summer. Everyone's, out in the street drinking. So I have so many questions. I'm trying to keep this down because I want to go. I had plans to go last year. I was supposed to actually party in the new year in Japan, but because of COVID, everything got exonerated, so couldn't really do that. And then, as you know, the borders kept opening and closing.
Yeah,
opening and closing. So we just gave up.
Yeah, it's way too difficult to plan, to be honest.
Well, since we're on this topic as well, so what's your opinion on this? Because I know you said you had someone ask this question. I know a lot of people view it as stupid as what they're doing, and some people say that they're giving into the xenophobia and they're easily making these decisions because they don't want anyone to come in. What's your opinion?
I just think it's all stupid. Like I understand the merit of closing the borders. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that because I mean you don't want anything really major or nasty to come in, right? But if you're gonna close the borders, close it appropriately. Like what sense does it make when you could allow your citizens to travel to Florida, home of the Omicron, for like a couple weeks and then come back and then share it? Just like, oh wait, that's exactly what happened. Well, I mean, the first case of Omicron was some dude that came back from the States, I believe, and he had it, but they weren't sure if it was Omicron at the time. And then because he was a Japanese citizen, he was allowed to skip majority of the quarantine, and he did home quarantine. He did he did home quarantine. Maybe it was a girl. I'm not sure which it was, but they went at home. They gave it to the person that was home with them, boyfriend or girlfriend, and then said person went to a soccer match.
Oh,
in a stadium.
Oh,
yeah, right. So,
oh no.
It's just like, okay, I understand. If you're gonna close the borders, but close it for everyone. If you're gonna do it for the purpose of actually being safe, it's kind of like being a kid, and Japan is walking up to everybody in the schoolyard and being like, "Hey, I'm gonna draw this line in the sand. You better not cross it." But then they allow everybody else to just walk on through.
Oh, that's such a good example. I can't be mad at that because we're dealing with that here as well. Because there's a lot of people. I went to a concert a couple weeks ago, and there are people doing restrictions and checking. This concert I went to, they were checking for CDC cards, or recent vaccine or like negative tests, stuff like that. And then when you got inside, they were like, you got to keep your mask on 24/7. So the bouncers were going around making sure, they were doing their job. Then I go to work because now I work at a hospital with the police for there. There's so many people that are over each other, coughing on each other, and then they go and complain about how the staff is forcing them to do this. They're not forcing you to do anything. We told you guys to stay 6 feet apart, but you want to go sit beside the sick old lady beside you. And there's just so many examples. I don't understand. PSA, if you just go get the shot. I got it when it first came out. I haven't had any problems. I had a fever for like 30 minutes and that was it. Go get the shot.
Dude,
guys.
I didn't even have anything. Like both shots, I was just like, I was waiting for it. I was like, all right, where's the dull pain? Here comes the runny nose or like the aches. Absolutely nothing.
Where I consider us some of the lucky few. Because
it made it worse because then do you remember the news report that came out of Germany? There was a nurse that was giving people saline shots, maybe like 140 people or so.
Oh no.
Like people went in there for the purpose of getting the vaccine, and because this lady was so anti-vaccine, she was giving saline shots. And like, I'm not going to put that above somebody, that's kind of crazy out here in Japan to do the same, right? I mean, Japan has like anti-mask demonstrations in the heart of Shibuya, for God's sakes.
I did.
So I was like sitting at home. I was just like, oh my God, did this happen to me? Am I a victim? Is something gonna happen to me? I was like stressed out for like a couple weeks or so.
That happened at the state capitol here as well. I didn't realize it happened in Germany. So the moment you saw, I thought you were talking about here. No, apparently everyone around the world got the same memo, started doing the same thing.
Yeah, apparently so.
Oh no,
it's nuts, man.
Oh God.
Yeah, in regards to like the whole border thing, like I don't understand it either because a lot of the flack that Japan seems to get is this whole xenophobia aspect, right? But I know tens of people, I'm not going to exaggerate and say hundreds, I know tens of people that are foreigners. During this lockdown, they have been able to successfully leave Japan, go to their home country, and come back, which is pretty similar to what the Japanese people are doing. I mean, they're Japanese citizens that live here. So I don't see any difference between, how foreigners are being treated that live in Japan and Japanese people that live in Japan. I think the only thing that's different is the fact that if you're an American citizen, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, born and raised in you know, good old America, you know, yeah, the border's closed. You're not going to be able to go back to Japan, right? But also, if you're a Japanese born American, guess what? You're also not going to be able to go. So, of course, the Japanese citizen who lives in Japan is going to be allowed to return back, right? That just, I don't know. Does that only make sense to me?
Look, my thing is, if you're going to close the borders, you got to close it to all. And, like, well, I'm not talking about cutting off trade and stuff. The world runs like that. You can't just ex-nay that. I'm just talking about travel. And from what I've learned, from what I've seen and everything, I know domestic travel is like a big thing in Japan. And that's where a lot of income comes from. Okay, cool. Just stop. You can fly anywhere inside the country. Just don't leave the country.
Yeah, exactly. I could perfectly agree with you. And that's like what I was mentioning earlier. Like, if you're going to close the borders, close them. Don't allow people to go outside either. Yeah, it's a hot mess, but I mean,
have you seen that new Netflix movie that came out where I forget what it's called.
Don't Look Up?
Yes, that one.
Yeah, it's so good.
I've recently stated that they did very, very accurate work with the movie, and right now is very good example of that movie, what we were just talking about.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That movie is the precursor of like Idiocracy.
I'm glad you know that reference, because I made that reference to a couple people the other day and they didn't know what I was talking about.
Yeah, well, maybe they thought it was a fiction and not the documentary.
Well, since you brought up America, I know you came from over this way, correct?
Yeah, I'm originally from California, from the States.
How in the world did you go from California all the way to Japan?
Well, originally, I was in the States. I was working as a software kind of quality analyst. So basically, I break the fuck out of software. Oh yeah, am I allowed to curse?
Yeah, go for it. I don't fucking care.
Okay. Apologies for making your product. You know, I have one. Now it's PG-13.
Look, if they seen my content, they know what they're getting into. It's all right.
Okay. So basically, in a nutshell, I was working in the software industry back in the States, and I was working for a company that was in the broadcast software, kind of like software. Software like software. But basically, yeah, broadcast industry. So basically, I would be sent to like CNN, Fox News, your local news in Florida, your local news in Bakersfield, all over the place. And the company at the time was wanting to expand globally. And there was an opportunity to try to kind of like get into the niche market of selling software to like Japan, you know, to NHK, TBS, Nitere, etc., etc. But then the question was asked, okay, well, who can speak Japanese? And nobody could, but I took maybe Japanese 101 in like the local community college, so I raised my hand. And next thing I know, I was on a flight. So that's how I came out here to Japan. And basically, I was telecommuting from work while also going to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of meetings and trying to pick up and learn Japanese desperately at the time. And then eventually, after my contract specifically for telecommuting to Japan was up, I had a choice, which was come back to California, continue working, or stay in Japan, but also lose your job. Needless to say, I stayed in Japan. I absolutely fell in love with Japan, and I think I made the right choice.
So let me ask this then. So when you lost your job but stayed, how did you survive? Did you end up picking up like side jobs here and there? Did a company end up recruiting you? How did that happen?
Oh, I was smart about it. I had a nest egg.
Okay then. All right, good.
Yeah, in a nutshell, basically, because I was so busy the entire time with work, I didn't have time to you know, spend all my money like a bunch of people that come out here on vacation do. I just saved and saved and saved. So I had a really nice nest egg saved up. When I did end up losing my job, I'm not necessarily losing, more kind of like retiring from that position. When I ended up retiring from that position, I kind of just took it easy for a bit and started exploring, started learning more Japanese, making new friends. And eventually I was able to find a job at a startup company that had to do with kind of like media creation for the purpose of Japanese tourism.
Okay. So this is my ADHD kicking in, man. I just had a great question to ask. So when you were learning Japanese, did you end up getting like a tutor or something, or was it just through osmosis, going through different conversations every day and so on and so forth? What did you end up doing?
I think it was a mixture of everything. At the time, I was living in Chiba Prefecture, and Chiba Prefecture has a kind of program for international people to learn Japanese, and it's all free and it's done by volunteers. So you could actually sign up for classes, and volunteers will come in and basically do like one-on-one tutorship. And I did that for a bit, but then eventually I signed up for a Japanese learning course at a local school. But unfortunately, that didn't really work out for me because it was just a really weird situation, because 90% to 95% of the class were all Chinese. And we were at a level of like, hey guys, we're going to learn kanji. Let's learn kanji. And 95% of the class, since they were all Chinese, they all knew everything. So it went at such an exponential rate of speed that it was just impossible for me to feel like I was catching up with the class or learning anything, because they were just literally like, okay, week 1, here's 150 kanji, learn it by the end of the week. Week 2, here's a new 150. I was just like, I can't learn this fast. This is crazy, when they all kind of know, they could at least read everything for the most part. So I ditched that course. And then after that, I did something that I felt was smart, or at least for myself. I did the whole osmosis thing, but I did it very uniquely. Now, like I mentioned before, I had a lot of kind of free time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one of my biggest fears of learning a new language is using it when you're not adept at it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was very shy, and I didn't want to speak Japanese to, the person at the konbini, the person, at the McDonald's counter. God forbid I ever had to go to the bank or the post office, right? So what I did is I would go to a friend's bar in Tokyo, and because they were a friend, I could easily just hang out and chill and chat and do like all-nighters there. And it was a pretty popular bar as well. So what I did is I would go there, hang out with my friend, bring a notepad with me, and listen to conversations around me. Now, luckily, it wasn't a super niche bar. It was kind of like an everyday bar. It was not like a pickup bar like the Hub or anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's disgusting like that. So you actually heard natural conversations. So what I would do is like, I would listen for keywords. So like, nandake, nandake. This person is saying nandake. What the hell is nandake? I would write that down on my notepad, find out other keywords, write those down on my notepad, either ask my friend over the counter when he was free, or if he wasn't, I'd go back home, look these up online, translate as best as I could. Okay, so now I know this word, I know the meaning, go back to the bar and now understand when it's used, how it's used, and why it's used. And by doing this, I was able to learn Japanese in a way that's osmosis, but also in a way that was very natural to speak. Because I think those people that learn specifically from books or online classes, they learn that Japanese as the way that they're taught, and they're kind of stuck in this silo of only being able to speak this kind of version of Japanese. Whereas for me, I had basically first-person experience from a variety of people, and also learned basically the nuances of how to use certain words and when to use them, etc. So that's how I learned.
See, that's a unique take. I haven't heard anyone else do something like this, because everyone online, like Chris Braw and all that stuff, well, I use this, or I went and taught and stuff like that, but I never heard anyone take a unique approach like you did, and which I think personally, for me, I think that'd be something good, because I'm like you said, I'm stuck in that silo, because all I have are books. Mm-hmm. I have my Japanese 1 and 2 that I took in high school how many years ago now, and I only remember some of the basic words. And even picking up a second language or something like that, I think that would be a good way to do it. So I'm actually Thank you for that info, because that's an idea I could probably take somewhere and use for myself. I appreciate that.
It was definitely useful because, again, at a bar, if I had a couple drinks, okay, now I have some liquid courage in me. I'm gonna try to speak Japanese, and then you have the drunken, locals that are there as well, coming up to you. Where are you from? Hey, maji saiko, and speaking to you in Japanese, and suddenly you're stuck in a situation where you're forced to speak Japanese. So now I'm actually able to use what I learned in practice and, kind of receive more information back. So it was actually very useful for me.
Well, listeners, I hope this was some helpful info towards that, because honestly, you can take that, use that for any language. Because it's basically, if you got somewhere you can go sit down, like a coffee shop or, like you said, a bar, take the simple things, go home, learn it, and if you make friends with locals, or if you know people in the area, bada bing, bada boom, there you go.
Yep.
Which, thank you for that, because I'm going to end up using that at some point. So, since we're on that, because I was going to ask if anyone actually approached you at the bar, which you said some people did.
Yeah, quite a few people did, actually, and they became really good friends.
Did they go? Was it more of the curiosity of, oh, there's this guy over here. What's he doing over here? Is it more of that, or was it they were drunk and they just ended up over there?
I think it was a mix of both. Not to mention at the bar, there's a lot of regulars that would come. So obviously, if you have this foreigner who's just chilling at the bar with a notepad all the time, browsing Reddit, eventually you're going to say, hey, you come here a lot. How do you know this person? And natural kind of conversations occur from there.
Okay. Speaking of the Gaijin card, has anyone approached you and had a weird experience? And have you had good experience from being, not a foreigner per se? Is there been what are some of the good and what are some of the bad experiences you've had?
I've had a mix of both. Obviously, I've been out here for almost 10 years, so I mean, you'll have both experiences regardless. But one of the best and most memorable experiences, probably the first trip that I took out here. And during this trip, I went to Kyoto, and I didn't speak any Japanese at all. None. You'd send me to McDonald's and I have to point at stuff in the menu just to survive. But I entered this convenience store, and suddenly, outside of the convenience store, I could hear blah, 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 just this old dude, salaryman, just singing, completely just sloshed out of his mind. Stumbles into the convenience store. The clerk at the counter is just like, oh God, what do I do? And this guy's just walking around, and I'm just sitting there okay, just don't come to me, and we're good. I'm looking at the drinks, Pocari Sweat, Mitsuya cider. What am I gonna get tonight? Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna get that Mitsuya cider. As I'm opening the door, drunk business homie right next to me puts his hand on my shoulder. Where are you from? I'm from America. Oh, that's nice. Do you love Japan? And I was like, oh yeah. Love Japan. He's like, oh, so happy. Thank you. And I'm like, okay, cool. You could get your hand off me now. But homeboy just no, thank you for love Japan. I want to show you Japan's love. I was like, oh
no.
I don't think I'm old enough, sir. But then what he does, he goes around the corner, he gets a basket. He's like, do you know this? And he points to some pastry, puts it into my face. He's like, this is melon pan. This is Japanese pastry. And I'm just like, oh, okay, yeah, I get that. I've watched anime before. I know this is a jelly donut. But he gets it. He's like, melon pan is love. I show you love. Puts the melon pan in the basket. I was like, why are you showing me your shopping ingredients? But then he continues this, right? He's like, this is anko bread. This is Pocari Sweat. And he's putting all these snacks and all these drinks in this cart. And he's like, and now I show you the best Japanese beer. And he gets an Asahi for me, puts it in, and then he's like, come with me. I'm following him to the counter. Clerk guy is looking at me like, dude, what the fuck is going on? And I'm just like, I don't know, man, but if I get shot, you help me out, okay? We go to the counter, and the clerk does all the payment. The guy, he puts everything on there. Once he gets the bag, he's like, I want you, love Japan. Please remember. And then he gives me the bag and he goes, 楽しんでね. And then he just walks off into the night singing his drunken songs. And I never saw him again. Never saw him again.
Well, his dream was accomplished. You will forever remember that.
Fucking love Japan. I don't know what kind of voodoo this guy did, but fuck, it worked. It worked.
Oh, God. Oh, that's amazing. Oh, I love hearing stuff like that. Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I've never had a moment like that ever again, or anything even remotely to top that.
I'm assuming this was like after the first couple weeks you were here.
Yeah, it was. It was like when I was still kind of going into like tourism mode, be like, wow, Japan's so wacky and super culture, wow. Everything's so amazing. Yeah.
Well, now you said the good. Is there a memory, a bad memory you want to share? Something you look back and laugh at?
Something I look back and laugh at is, I don't know. I've run into situations like, yeah, a lot of people don't necessarily like to talk about it, but yeah, like in certain small towns and small areas, racism, I guess, is still kind of around, and it's pretty sketchy at best.
Because that's where all the old folks are, right?
Yeah, exactly. But like the most interesting situation was that this was when I was still fresh to Japan, right? But I was traveling with a friend who was very fluent in Japanese. And we're going over to an izakaya, right? And you could see from outside to, you know, all the seating of the izakaya. And, you know, it's okay, somebody's in this seat, somebody's in that seat. But overall, this izakaya is like empty, like completely empty. And now it's about like 5:30, and we look up the hours of this place, and they say they're open from like 2:00. Me and my buddy walk up, and this lady that's just right at the front, right at the door, stops us, and we're just like, oh yeah, just 2 please, you know, can we go in? And she's like, oh, refuses to speak Japanese, refuses, even though my friend is talking to her in Japanese. And she's just like, sorry, no, closed, no, sorry, and then putting up like the X signs with her hands, right? And my buddy's talking to her in Japanese, explaining to her like, what's wrong? We could see that there's customers inside. I'm speaking Japanese to you right now. Like, we just want to get a drink. That's it. And while she's doing her like charades, going, no, please, no, close right now. 2 Japanese businessmen walk right past us, go up to her and say, ja, 2人で, like they're only 2 people. And she goes, Hai, kashikomarimashita. Hai, dozo. And like lets them in right in front of our face. And then my buddy, he has a worse temper than I did at the time. He just starts spouting off like, what the fuck is your problem, in Japanese? Like, you just let them in. Like, we can speak Japanese. There's nothing wrong here. Like, what? And she's just like adamantly just like, no, close right now. And we're just like, at this point, I just can't help but laugh at the stupidity of the situation. And like, I'm trying to get my friend to just like, come on, it's a losing battle. Let's just go. Let's go somewhere else. But yeah, that was one of the interesting experiences that I've had.
I can't. Unfortunately, I can say I've seen that here with smaller businesses. And I'm not in a small town. It's just like a population of 100,000 plus. This ain't no small town. Well, I don't know. Compared to over Japan, this might be a small town, but this is a small town. But I've seen that towards basically anyone who doesn't look white, and it's kind of like, all right, they're speaking to you. They're speaking English. You can make it out perfectly fine. Why aren't you letting them in? Business 101 is, as long as you can order and pay, I don't care. Come on in. I don't know. It's one of those things that I probably will never understand until, you know, I'm off this earth. I'll never understand it.
I think it's a really rare situation. And I think it's when these situations happen, I think people like to embellish on the experience. And basically, obviously, negative news will obviously go much farther than this guy who bought me melon pan and beer, right?
Oh yeah.
And people will tend to focus on that. And to be honest, yeah, my entire experience in Japan, I've had hundreds of times where the generosity and kindness of like the Japanese people have helped me out, significantly. And yeah, I've had a couple shitty situations, but unfortunately, not unfortunately, fortunately, that's not going to overshadow the good that I've seen, right? And I think people need to realize that also, much like America, Canada, UK, all these places around the world, you can't judge the people of a country as a whole for the actions of one.
Oh, yeah.
And I think people need to kind of remind themselves of that. Or else every American that comes out here is going to be a Logan Paul.
Speaking on the generosity, I know I didn't send this to you, but I just thought about it. Because I know you a lot via your Mount Fuji experiences. I've seen the videos, I've seen you post pictures, and I know it's something you love to do. So, tell me, like, how did you get into that? Did one of your new friends that you made over there go, hey, why don't we do this? And, like, how's the experience generally go?
For Mount Fuji itself?
Yeah.
I think what initially motivated me is that, like, I thought at the time, because, there's a saying that, a wise man climbs Mount Fuji once and a fool climbs it twice. So in my mind at the time, I was like, well, if I'm only going to climb it once, then I'm not going to cheat like every tourist does and goes from the 5th station. Ooh, it's just a 4-hour hike up and down. I'm done. I was like, no, that's not epic enough. I want my trip to be epic. Like, if it's going to be the one time that I do this, I want to make it count. So I started exploring the actual trails, and this is when I found out, oh, Mount Fuji has 4 different trails to go up the mountain. Okay, well, where do they start? And after doing a little bit more research, I started finding groups of like hikers. Oh, we start from this trail, we start from this trail. And then through there, I found this like quote unquote official website of people that would do this thing called Sea to Summit. So Sea to Summit precedes me by many years. And it was done by a kind of like a volunteer charity group, mm-hmm. where you would pay a certain amount and then you participate in the hike with them and you go basically from Sea to Summit with them. And I thought, oh, okay, that was cool. But at the time, I was in a little bit of a financial bind. And I think their minimum at the time was like $250 or so for their experience. And also, I wasn't sure if I was physically fit enough to keep up with their pace. So those were like 2 points that made me think, okay, yeah, I don't want to join these guys, but I want to do the same thing. So in 2012? Maybe 2012, 2013. No, 2012. That was the first time that I decided I'm going to climb Mount Fuji Sea to Summit. I did it. I suffered a lot because it was my first time, and I made a lot of mistakes. But after getting to the top and coming home, like I felt nothing else aside from like, I want to do this again. And that's what basically started off, the whole Sea to Summit thing.
Basically, you got that adrenaline rush of like, all right, I need to like go chase this again and go do it. I know there was, so with the Sea to Summit, I'm curious, dude, they stop at some of the inns on the mountain, right? Do they stop there, or do they just straight up just keep on going?
I think for this specific group, I'm not sure if they're even doing it anymore, but for this group, yeah, they just go nonstop straight to the top. Oh, okay. Like I've done that on a couple times on my Sea to Summit, but then, after 3-4 climbs, you kind of just want to take it easy, right?
You just want to take the easier route. Yeah, I get you.
Yeah. So, I mean, I still complete it. It's just I go easy mode now. There are specific stops where, I'll stay at the 6th station because I've built significant rapport with the family that runs the 6th station. So I'll stay with them a night, and just hang out and talk with them and just catch up from what's happened within the last year. And then I'll do the same with, the people up at the 9th station because I'm friends with those people. So it's like revisiting friends for me is like the extra bonus.
Mm-hmm. See, there's a lot of things I want to see. I like doing stuff like that. I do that with like small businesses and stuff here. I try to build a rapport and get to know them because I like making friends. I just getting to know, hear people's story. How did you get from point A to point B to here? Like I just learning and hearing that stuff always like thrives me. Mm-hmm. So, did Mount Fuji kind of inspire your photography, or did you like already have the hobby when you moved, when you like came here for the first time? Like, how did that get started?
Interesting question. So, like, my first camera was a Canon 7D, and I picked that up in 2011, and it was around the time that I wanted to get into photography because during my first trip in 2009 to Japan, I just had a really crappy power shot. I mean, I still have the camera. I should probably use it for shits and giggles, but like, I wasn't really satisfied with the pictures that I took of the trip. And I was just like, yeah, but getting into the next bracket, I have to get a DSLR. Ooh, that's a lot of money to spend on a camera. But I ended up picking that up. And I actually used to run a blog when I first moved to Japan. And I would write weekly articles of like, hey, this is Tokyo Tower. This is Tokyo Skytree. This is this temple, that temple. This is this festival that I went to. And to be honest, I think I was probably in the same wave of every other kind of like online publication that was spearheading this whole like Japanese articles marketed towards foreigners at the time. And that was the initial kind of motivation. But it wasn't until I got hired on by a media company as their editor-in-chief that we were writing a lot of articles. But obviously, the biggest problem at the time was copyright. You just can't go Google search for Tokyo Tower and just use any image. You had to go take them yourself. So acting as like the editor-in-chief, I have a 7D. Let me go take these pictures. And that's kind of what started everything off.
So, well, okay. So, that kind of answers what I was going to ask next. Like, so when you started doing it, did you take like classes, or was it kind of something you just like figured out on the fly? And obviously, being an editor in chief, you kind of had to have an idea what you were looking for. So I guess that helped you in that sense.
A little bit, but to be honest, I was in desperation of trying to find classes either online or like offline, or even to like meet up with other photographers at the time, because like, sure, like I knew the basics, and aside from everything that YouTube taught me, okay, go to aperture priority mode, and then just click away, and eventually you'll be okay. By the way, there's this thing called Lightroom, and you could edit your pictures even further. I was just like, oh my god, but I can't afford Lightroom at the time. So yeah, it was definitely a solo learning experience. I would have loved to have learned from other people. God knows I tried to reach out to some people and be like, can I please be your apprentice? Please teach me. And it never worked out. So unfortunately, due to that, I had to learn how to edit pictures for online media. And editing pictures for online media is significantly different as opposed to something that I'm going to share on like Instagram or anything like that. So that's where I learned how to do that side of photography. And then little by little, as I started to branch out in like 2015 to be a little bit more creative in the process and to show my own personality in photography, that's when I got Lightroom and I started experimenting with new styles.
So while we're here, is there any like quick tips you want to give out to like some people that are looking into getting photography? Stuff you didn't know about and you had to discover?
Well, I think people are significantly spoiled now in regards to the amount of gear that's out there, especially for starter gear. I mean, back when I first purchased my Canon 7D, I picked it up for $1,800. And now for about the same amount of money, you can get something that shoots in 4K, has a great picture quality and everything. So my immediate tips would be like, yeah, one, you're spoiled. And two, use the gear that you have. I mean, the iPhones these days, the Galaxies, the Pixels, the whatever the hell, these young whippersnappers call their phones these days. Yeah, the camera is good enough. Honestly, the amount of the library of information in regards to like tips and tricks in photography and learning the basics is insane. There was a YouTube channel that I used to follow a lot, along with like Jared from Fro Knows Photo, where they will literally do a breakdown of the entire menu system of a camera. Like they'll be like, oh, hey, you just got a Canon 5D. Here's what everything means. And then you kind of just go from there. And then you just learn the basics. But the most important thing is just shoot, go out and just take pictures. And even if you don't think they're good now, keep them around and don't delete them, because when you could go back after you've learned a thing or two, you could go back and study them and be like, okay, I see what I did wrong here. So the next time I go to try to take this shot again, I will be better prepared.
So, I just learned. I didn't know there was a YouTube channel that did something like that. Because
there's hundreds of them.
Oh yeah, well, I say that, but as I said, I'm like, well, there's probably a YouTube channel for everything out there.
Yeah.
I would never think of going menu breakdowns on blah blah blah. I would never think about doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm the type that would just sit there and mess around and like try to figure it out on my own because I'm stubborn. But see, like stuff like that, I'm pretty sure that might just help someone. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the biggest problems that people will have is that they're expecting to watch a video, or they're expecting to follow a online course, and they're expecting to immediately have this block of experience and knowledge that will automatically raise their skill or their craft in photography like immediately. But in reality, photography is really a mix of knowledge and 70% experience, and it's layered on. Like, pretend you're doing a 3D print. The 3D print just doesn't poop out a block that you give it, right? It goes literally layer by layer by layer, and that's exactly how you kind of level up in photography.
Well, I appreciate the info on that, sir, because I'm looking into figuring out. I'm trying to, because I do vlogs when I go to conventions and stuff like that, or go to new places. I bought a camera. I don't think it's the best camera, but living on a budget, which I've gotten an increase in salary as of late. But I'm trying to figure out what would be a good vlogging camera per se, because the camera I got is a Power Shot, oddly enough, SX620. That is what I have, and it works good. I enjoy it, but compared to, like you said, compared to your phone nowadays, my phone's better.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked this because you go around, you take different shots, you get jobs to help other people. Is there like any specific camera that would be budget friendly that you've seen?
It depends on what people say budget. I mean, because like back in the 2000s, people thought budget was okay. If it's like a $60 to $100 camera, then okay, that's budget. In the mid 2000s, if you were in photography or wanting to get into photography, your budget was like, okay, 1,000 to 200. And now, people think that budget is like getting closer to like the 2000 range. So it's really difficult to judge just by using the word budget, because I think everybody's individual limit is significantly different.
True. Let me word it as this way then. Bang for your buck. Is there a camera out there that that would be good for bang for your buck? Let's say about $1,000 right now.
$1,000. What would be good for $1,000? Was it so like if you want a vlog camera, Sony came out with a camera vlog. Is it the? I have to actually look it up.
No, you're good.
Oh, it's the ZV-E10. Wonder how much it costs. Sony ZV-E10. How much is this going for? Yeah, it's going for about like actually no, that's with a kit. It's going for like around $1,000 depending on the lens that you use.
Okay. Well, since we're speaking of cameras, have you thought about getting older cameras and doing like vintage photography, or like doing photo shoots with those?
Like, it'd be interesting, but it's kind of expensive, to be honest.
I asked because one of my friends started picking them up. And he's gotten, I've been with him on a couple of deals. He's gotten a couple of the older cameras for cheap. But when it comes to lenses, that's where he spent most of his money.
Yes.
So I didn't know.
Some of the bodies can be very pricey, but the lenses, ooh. Not to mention getting actual like film can be expensive. Mm-hmm. And printing things out is also very expensive.
Okay. I thought I'd ask your opinion on it, because I think it'd be cool. You have a vintage photo shoot up in Hokkaido or in Sapporo or somewhere like over there, just like going around with like this old camera and doing a photo shoot and having a collection. I mean, that in my eyes, I think that's cool.
Yeah, it's something I definitely am trying to, and I own two cameras. I have a Sony AE1, which is a film camera, And also I have a Yashica mid-frame camera, the kind that you kind of look down on. It looks really cool. Both of them produce like really, really good quality kind of like prints, something that's very kind of like nostalgic. But the issue I have is that like if I'm personally going to a location, let's say like Ginza Onsen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like my purpose of going there is like I specifically am looking for like a certain shot. My priority is going to be trying to get this shot. So there's an issue about like how much percentage of time are you going to dedicate to, okay, well 80% of the shot is going to be to my digital camera, then I'm going to use 20% to this film camera. And I also have to vlog, so that's an additional like 20% that's going to be taken away from the effort that I could do. And if you don't do something 100%, you're just half-assing it.
Fair enough.
So like if I specifically have it in mind, like I'm going to go to this festival and I'm only going to use my film camera, then yeah, it's going to turn out great. But I'm primarily a digital camera shooter.
Mm-hmm.
So until I kind of have that yearning to just go specifically for film, it's probably something I'm just going to keep on the sidelines for now.
Okay. It's one of those questions that I've been wanting to ask you because, like I said, I like your photography and I like that kind of, that capture where you see them going around and using the older style and making, I guess higher quality photos nowadays, I guess is the term I'm going for. I don't know. I'm trying to throw these words out. But since we're talking about the modern age, your love for video games, sir. I know you stream. Yep. So before I ask you the real question, what do you have any plans for streaming this year? Because I know you took a small break and then you came back.
Yeah, I took a break from September, October on streaming, and it absolutely killed my Twitch channel. I have like nobody showing up these days, but I'm trying to get back into it. And yes, I am planning to stream more often, play some more games, but hopefully the main purpose of like my Twitch channel for streaming is like I want to be able to share like the editing process with everyone. Mm-hmm. But the problem is like if I don't have pictures, if I don't travel somewhere, well then I don't have anything to share to edit, and that's the biggest issue. So I need to mix it up with some games every now and then. So luckily what I'm thinking of doing is just being able to, if you donate a game to me on Steam while we have one of these sales, which is what a lot of people have done recently, then I'm going to play them on stream and say thank you. So I have a couple games that I want to play on stream coming out this year.
Which ones?
Pokemon Arceus for one, to be honest.
Oh yeah.
And Final Fantasy VI, the Pixel remaster when that comes out, because that's on the top list of my favorite games.
Now, why? Okay, while we're on this topic as well, why is it one of your favorite games? Because I've heard most times people tell me it's 6, 7, 10, 10, 2, and then like the online one. So what is that? 8, I think was the online one, and 14.
No, 11 was the first online one, and then 14 was the next one.
So what makes 6 stand out compared to everything else?
I think just the overall story arcs and everything. And you guys might want to skip ahead 10 seconds if you don't want spoilers. But yeah, 3, 2, 1. The bad guy wins. And it's the first time in a story like this where the bad guy wins. And it's just like, as like, how old was I? I was like 12, 13 at the time. As like a young teenager, I was just like shocked at that, like, wow, no matter how hard the heroes fought, they lost. They got their asses handed to them.
It doesn't matter.
It was just a real kind of like a punch in the gut of reality of just like, hey, sometimes shit like this happens. And then it was the latter half of the game that was like, regardless of how bad things can get, you could still keep pushing, and for that happy ending, for for that hope to survive. Mm-hmm. And that really resonated with me at the time.
Okay. I find that sweet in a sense, because it's kind of like how you do a parallel comparison with me and Persona 4. Mm-hmm. It came at a time in my life where I was trying to like figure out who I am, and how we are when we're younger, we're trying to like impress your peers and do all this stuff. Well, Persona 4 basically had the message of, it doesn't matter what others think. You'll find friends eventually, and they'll like you for you. And it doesn't matter what's happened to that point. They'll be your friend. And that stuck with me. That's one of those things that stuck with me, and that's why I always put it up there as one of my top games, because I've played it maybe 7 or 8 times now, and that's like 60 or 70 hours a pop. So it's just one of those games that enthralling story, good character building in my eyes, good world building, just the whole 9 yards for me. But I'm here to ask the real question that everyone wants to know. How did you start DDR? Because that is one of the things, whenever I get a chance, you get to stream it or whatever, I always try to get in, always try to see. So how did you find out about DDR, and what made you fall in love with it?
Oh God. So we're gonna have to go back in time, probably back to a time where some of your listeners weren't even born yet. All right, so way back in 1999 in California, we had this thing called arcades. Physical arcades you could go to, not barcades these days, you know. No, they had this strange machine that had arrows on it, and it was just blasting semi-catchy music off in the distance, and nobody would play it. Nobody would play it because every now and then when you see someone else play it, they look so stupid playing this game. But eventually, like, I was at the arcade so much, I was like, oh, you know what, fuck it, you know, this whatever song is catchy, stomp to my feet beat or whatever the hell, let's try it. It shouldn't be that hard, right? It's just arrows. Get on there. And I'm just like, okay, well, let me try to hit these. Okay, wow, it is harder than it looks. And then something about the challenge of like, okay, well, it says that I missed these steps, so what happens if I get all perfect? It should be easy to do. And then gradually I just found myself playing it more and more and more. And then other people that would come to play the game, because we were such a small niche of people who played it, like, you automatically made friends with everybody that played it, right? Because we were the nerds that everyone else that was playing the fighting games were laughing at. So that's how I initially got into it. But it was around like year 2000 or so when I found out about, oh, there's tournaments, there's cliques, there's rivalries, there's this whole underbelly of DDR that I had no idea about. And I was like, this is so cool, like, to find so many like people in this community. And it really was a community at the time. Some of my bestest friends are from those days, and the friendships, the challenges, and the rivalries is what basically made me fall in love with DDR. And I've been doing it on and off kind of ever since.
So you just opened my eyes. I always thought there was like a tournament scene, but I never heard of the tournament scene. So does that carry over to here? Have you seen like the tournament scene over here?
Oh yeah, the tournament scene here is insane. Like, you can't even physically keep your eyes on the movements of like some of these players these days. It's nuts.
See, I'm not coordinated enough to do it. I've always been jealous of the people who can do it, because my brain takes a minute to go down to my feet, and by the time I get to go press the button, I already missed like 5 arrows, and you know, and then it's like, all right, now my score 0. What of it? So I've always been like slightly jealous of people like that, but that's something interesting I never knew about. Because, I mean, there's probably a tournament scene for everything out there. You just gotta look for it.
Yep.
Opening my worlds, every question that I ask you, I appreciate it.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like God knows how many hundreds of hours, you know, did I put into it, you know? And I'm still at the current level that I am now. And trust me, I'm nowhere near, you know, the feats of like some of the best players in the world. I could still hold my own, and I'm happy with that. I'm just kind of competing with myself, and it's a craft of like, hey, it's like old school gaming where it's like you see what your high score is and you're motivated to beat that again. So, but every single song is its own kind of challenge.
Have you entered a tournament?
Oh, like way back in the day. 20 years ago, yeah.
Were there like cash prizes, or was it just
Yeah,
basically for
there were-
fame?
A mix of both. You'd have a bunch of kind of like anime stores, mom and pop shops that would hold tournaments, and then you would win prizes. I remember I got a Titus figure from one of these anime stores for getting like second place, and then I got a cash prize for another one, and then there was a tournament in Las Vegas where me and a couple friends knew that we could sweep first, second, and third. So we got first, second, and third, and then we used the cash like to combine together to just have a really wicked night of debauchery before returning home.
See, that's the good stories right there. Oh yeah, we knew we could take it over, so we just showed up and cashed all the prizes out, and we went and had our own fun. 2 hours of work for a night of fun. There you go.
Sorry, people from Las Vegas.
Oh, that's great. Oh, I love that.
Yeah, but it's definitely fun.
Let me hit some of these other questions here that I got laid out. So, one of the ones I always love hearing are weird experiences. Well, you told me about the salesman, but that's like a happy memory because he just showed up. Here's a bunch of free foods. We love you. Bye. And then he disappeared into the night. So, has there been like any weird or like out of place experiences that you've had? Like something
weird or out of place.
Like you went to, let's say you went to a grocery store, and then like this commotion happened, and it turned out to be something really weird and stupid, and then you never saw anything. Like something like that.
Not anything comes up. Nothing really comes up immediately. I've had a few spooky situations, like for example, when I'm climbing Mount Fuji by myself, I had a run-in with a bear at a distance, and that was kind of terrifying.
Oh my.
I guess another situation was I was climbing this mountain in Gunma called Mount Miyogi, and it was just me, solo hike. I wasn't really expecting much, but I went off on this hiking course, and I was like, okay, cool. It's starting off with like chains, climb up the chains, perfectly fine. All right, we're good. But as we were getting closer to the top, I noticed that the difficulty of this trail was starting to get really, really, high. And it got to this point where it was just literally a vertical climb, and you had to like shimmy yourself up with this chain. And that was terrifying because below was just a dead drop all the way to the bottom. And I made it to the top, after a lot of fear and struggle, but I started walking a little bit further, and then I noticed, oh, this is a ridgeline. In order to continue going, I have to go up and down these chains, over and over again until I get to the other side of this ridge line. And that was a pretty terrifying situation because I slipped a couple times while going down on the chain, and if I didn't have a death grip on it, I legit would have fallen to my death. It was the first time in my life where I was just like, yeah, I will never ever climb this with anybody that I personally know.
Oh my word.
Yeah, well, and the only sign that was saying, hey, this is really stupid dangerous was on the other side. So that's my mistake. I climbed from the opposite direction and I missed that sign.
It's kind of like you get to the end, you go through this Death Valley situation, and it's like, by the way, in case you didn't notice.
Yeah. I guess if you want another odd one, I've told this one on stream before. Me and a friend, we went out to Mount Miyogi during winter. No, not Mount Miyogi. Mount Nansai in winter. And we started pretty late. So when we were about 3/4 of the way to our destination, we got hit with a snowstorm. And it was bad. It was like negative 17 degrees Celsius. And the snow was just coming down. And even though we were walking, we were losing so much heat that we were just starting to freeze. So we pulled off to the side of the trail and we immediately started setting up camp. Obviously, freezing our hands is off because we couldn't wear our gloves. But we managed to set everything up, chill, relax, have dinner. As we're getting ready to wind down, he's in his sleeping bag, I'm in my sleeping bag, and the lights are off. We're just kind of doing the last chats of the night before you kind of like finally crash. We heard something. Like we heard like this woman crying off in the distance, kind of like a wail, if you would. And I remember stopping our conversation mid-sentence and then listening, and then it stopped. And then I was so freaked out that I just continued the conversation. And I can continue the conversation for the sake of, I don't want to confirm of what I heard was true. So I'm just going to ignore it. And my buddy did the same. We both fell asleep. We woke up in the morning, and that's when I mentioned it. Hey, did you hear this like woman last night? He confirms it as well, that yes, he heard something too. We go outside, we examine the path. No other footsteps aside from ours. So that was a weird and creepy experience.
Well, now that you mention it, I know going into like abandoned villages and all that stuff is a thing. Have you had any experience, like creepy things, like you just decided one day you're passing through, like, let me go check this out, and turned out to be like a very creepy, spooky experience, or anything like that? Or
I would definitely like to try to go to some of these like Haikyo abandoned places, but I don't know. At the same time, I feel morally it's also kind of disrespectful, because the majority of the places that are kind of like abandoned and such have been abandoned due to, you know, situations that have been possibly have been really hard for families. I mean, you don't just up and leave, right? Like, for example, in the Tokyo Lens mini documentary about the abandoned village that he did, you know, the dam that was created caused a lot of people to lose their jobs in the area, and it kind of forced people out of their houses, you know? So for me to kind of go around like countryside being like, all right, guys, look, we found an abandoned village. Check this shit out. And like, you know, take video footage of people's pictures, books, their memories. Something just feels morally wrong to do that, you know, unless I had explicit permission. But good luck trying to find the original owners of these places, right?
Yeah. Because the reason why I asked that is because I've been getting a bunch of articles lately, because I know there's been some program the government started where they were giving out basically old abandoned places for like $1 or something, like dirt cheap, in hopes that people would go and renovate and like bring life back to the countryside.
Correct, but it's a two-sided sword. What do they say?
Double-edged sword.
It's a double-edged sword, basically. This program has been around ever since 2014, 2015 or so, to try to get not just, you know, locals, Japanese, you know, residents to pick up these houses, but also kind of opening up to foreigners as well. Yes, there are cheap places you could pick up off in the countryside, but we're talking like legit countryside. You know, I think the problem is that people from outside of Japan think of the countryside as like, wow, beautiful rice fields and a pretty train station. It's such a nice, relaxing. No, we're talking about countryside where like you need a truck to drive 1 hour into the mountains or into the valley just to get to this abandoned place, right?
Yikes.
And like okay, that's step one, which means guess what? Even if you try to get there from the train station, you're gonna have to walk for 5-6 hours just to get to your home. Is that really reasonable?
And that's not including the construction costs, trying to get all the materials up there. That's not
exactly. And on top of that, you have land taxes, then you have other taxes and fees that are, you know, crap you've never even heard of, like recipient tax. Just the fact that you're getting this house, even though you bought it for $1, you're paying for the original land and the payment. And then on top of that, you also have to get into contact with who legally owns the house, etc. So it's a very convoluted process, but also the fact that the money that you're spending on renovation, sure, in the end is going to be cheaper than buying a new house, say like in the Tokyo area, but at the same time, you're still out in fucking who knows where, out in the countryside, right?
Jeez.
And then good luck getting a license, because getting a license out here, you're gonna have to pay close to $4,000 as well.
Yikes! Just for
yeah.
Jeez.
So yeah, if $4,000 to get a license is expensive, then yeah, you're gonna get a big surprise when you try to purchase one of these Akiyas.
Oh Jesus, man.
But
Ah.
I do have advice if you are seriously interested in this, or you just want to learn more about this. Check out this YouTube channel called Tokyo Llama. He has a YouTube series dedicated from start to basically finish of him purchasing an Akiya and all the steps that he's gone through with renovating it.
I think I've seen that.
Yeah, it's a really good watch. Really interesting watch.
Well, since we're still on this, so time of years. I know it's kind of you can see the seasonal change is pretty, I won't say down straight cut.
Mm-hmm.
But your experience, so you've been there for about a decade now.
Yep.
What is your favorite time of year? And then coinciding with that, are there any specific festivals you try to go to every year or make your way out to at least for a day or something like that?
Good question. I think immediately I could easily answer the season. Winter. Absolutely winter. I'm in love with snowy landscapes and I cannot get enough. So winter 100%. I hate summer the most just because it's just a disgusting time of year to live in. Trying to get around anywhere and absolutely just being filled with sweat in a country that does not have deodorant is pretty rough, But in regards to festivals, I used to try to make it out to the Hiwatari Matsuri, which is the fire walking festival over at Mount Takao. It's where you see a bunch of monks walk on coals, and it's pretty awesome to see in person, but you could also participate as well. I went to the first 3 and then kind of fell off, and then I stopped kind of going, which really sucked, but I also kind of got bored of it, to be honest. But in regards to festivals these days, it's really rough. I kind of want to say the Yuki Matsuri in Sapporo, just because it's a winter festival.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm definitely trying to find other potential festivals to go to. So yeah, those are the top ones on the top of my head.
Is there any memorable experiences from these? Well, let me ask this: did you participate in the coal walking?
Yeah, I did, but by the time I was able to go through the line, the floor was lukewarm at best.
So
it didn't really feel like a challenge. I was just like, oh, okay, dirt, cool.
My feet are now warm. I appreciate it.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there any memorable experiences from any festivals you gone to?
Good question. There was a memorable experience from one specific festival, which is also kind of like a fire burning festival. But I was actually paid for this as a photographer and videographer. It was in the mountains north of, I want to say, Hamamatsu, and deep in the mountains of this original shrine that was called Akiha Shrine, which I believe the lore goes is that's what Akihabara is originally named after. Mm-hmm. This Akiha Shrine. And it was pretty crazy because I have very few pictures of it. I have footage of it that I should definitely release someday. You have a bunch of monks praying on this fire, and right in the middle of the fire is another monk just standing in there, meditating and praying. And right when you feel that, oh snap, this guy's gonna turn, into a yakitori right in front of us, he throws up this huge kite in the air. And this kite is attached to all the trees in the area. And basically with the fire, as it burns, keeps the kite suspended. And while the kite is suspended, the monks all around are chanting, sending their prayers, etc. People around are taking pictures, sending their prayers as well. But eventually, the fire will get high enough and it'll start to tear apart this kite. And then as the fire kind of starts dying down, the kite will come down. And then when it comes down, everybody is supposed to reach out and get a piece of the kite. If you're able to get a piece of the kite, it's supposed to guarantee that you have luck for the entirety of the next year. So this is a super omamori compared to your omikuji that you would get at a shrine. And because I was a videographer and photographer, all I could do was just watch. And it was painful. It was very painful because like I wanted to stick my hand out, but obviously if I stick my hand out, it's gonna ruin the shot. So I kept trying to like sneak aside, trying to grab out to the side, but I couldn't get anything, and people were, just running in there, just grabbing it, and I remember feeling really bummed out. But then as the kite was, massacred by everybody, people were actually like walking around and like talking to each other. I was like, okay, what's going on? This one guy approaches me like, hey, were you able to get a piece? And I was like, no. He's like, okay, here's mine. And I was like, oh, thank you. I got a piece of the kite. And I still have it with me. I carry it with me everywhere I go. It's in my wallet. So that was a very good experience.
I would love to see the footage of that because I'd never heard of this. And this is the first time I heard of something like this. Because, like, I know you go into the end of the year shrines, or the beginning of the year, going to the shrines, doing, offerings, stuff like that. But I haven't heard of I don't even say, a ritual, per se, such as that. That's the first I've heard of that.
Yeah, but see, I mean, that's the beauty of Japan. It's the fact that there's thousands upon thousands of these shrines and temples, and people seem to have this idea of like temple equals temple. Once you've seen one, you've seen them all. But every single one of them has a purpose, a history, lore behind it,
Mm-hmm.
So it's like this is how you find out that there's festivals such as this, and just being able to explore. Japan just has something new that you're finding about every single year, every single month that you live out here, as long as you're willing to look for it.
God, it's making me jealous because I'm really mad that I couldn't be there. There's a couple. Oh, yeah, food. How's the food? Like, I say that, like, it's just a general thing. When it comes to authenticity, so, like, I know there's some places that say they're, like, an American bar, they're an American restaurant, or something like that. How authentic is it?
Like, how authentic is American food in Japan?
Yeah, that, or because you're from the coast, West Coast. Like, I know there's a big Hispanic culture over there. So, like, Mexican restaurants. When they say they're Mexican, are they actually Mexican restaurants? Or are they just like, oh, we're this, here's some, like, fried, like, rice and a tortilla? Like,
dude, man, I have some stories for you. So
I'm here for it. Let's go.
When I first moved out here in 2012, authentic was just crap. I don't even think there were any kind of, like, good hamburger places back then, and if there were, they were unknown to me. The best that you had was just McDonald's, Burger King, if that was. The locations were very small though, and Freshness Burger or Moss Burger. So burger wise, it was pretty horrid at the time. It wasn't until like 2013 or 14 when I started hearing about like really good places. I think there's a Fats San Francisco and Kichijoji that's like really good for hamburgers.
Mm-hmm.
But in regards to like Mexican food, being Mexican myself, it's kind of something that I craved for. I desperately tried to find good Mexican food, and I remember that there was a Facebook group at the time where everybody would share all the Mexican food places that they found. There's this chain called Sol Amigo that does Japanese Mexican food, I guess is the best that I could describe it, because it is not very good. But the worst experience I had was in Akihabara, where we found, oh, this place sells tacos and they have Dr. Pepper. This must be legit. I got a taco from there, and I shit you not, it had ketchup in the taco. Not salsa, ketchup. Yeah, exactly. That was I couldn't finish it. I swear to God, I tried just because I didn't want to be rude, but no. I had my Dr. Pepper, and then I paid my bill and got the hell out and never looked back.
Oh, that's so sad.
But the good news is, throughout the years, yes, there's been some really good authentic stuff out here. There's a place called Soul Food House in like Roppongi. So if you want some like good chicken and waffles, oh, that is the place to go. If you want good Mexican food, there's Junkadelic in Nakameguro. There's also Chiles for burritos in Harajuku. So those are like my top spots for that. But yeah, they've been doing better. They've been doing better recently.
Wait, you talk about Chili's, like the restaurant chain Chili's, Or is
Oh
it
yeah,
like...
that's right, huh? No, it's not your baby back ribs place. I guess I should pronounce it more. I should pronounce it more like my people. It's called chiles. So chilies. Basically, it's Chili's Mexican Cantina or something like that.
Okay, I was about to get so concerned. I was about to say, it's you're struggling to find some stuff. If Chili's, the baby back rib place, has some good burritos.
Nah, this place is legit. I know the owner, and they make some really good burritos.
Well, since you brought up bad, has there been any other bad experiences, like just in general, not the finding authentic food, but like just in general, finding food? Yeah.
Not many. I mean, like when I first came out here, due to my lack of knowing Japanese, I think probably the worst experience I had, that's something I still kind of struggle with, is just the fact of like, okay, I want Japanese food. Okay, cool. What kind of Japanese food do you want? Okay, well, I want, katsukuri, or I want soba, or I want sushi. I want this, and that, right? If you go into Google and you just type sushi, you will get like 50 spots that pop up on your map, right? But if you're unfamiliar and if you still have this like basic mindset of like, oh, sushi equals kaiten sushi, the revolving belt sushi, right? But then you go and pop into the restaurant and you see everybody seated on the counter. There's no belt or anything. You're gonna be surprised, like, oh wait, no, this is kind of like an omakase sushi, where the chef tells you and gives you what you're gonna get, and then at the end you're probably gonna pay like a really high expensive bill, possibly. There's a variety of that, and you never know really what to expect until you physically get to the location sometimes. And this was obviously really bad, like in the early 2010s when I was out here. Luckily now, we have Google Maps and everybody's taking pictures, so you could easily like scout out the place online. But that wasn't really the case earlier.
It was basically trial and error and trying to figure out from there.
Yep.
God bless you, pioneers. That's all I gotta say. I'm trying to think. Is there really? Oh, well, yeah. What? So I know sometimes you get hired for jobs for other people, or like you said, for companies and stuff. What's one of the best jobs that you've had? Like, you've gained a lot of knowledge, or you've had a great time doing. If you want to share it, you don't have to. But what's one of those jobs?
I think I wasn't necessarily hired, but I got to be a part of it. A friend of mine was hired by NHK to do a travel TV series, and I got to kind of tag along. And I just remember the experience just being just really fun. We were able to go to so many places around the Numazu area, which is at the foothills of Mount Fuji. Okay, maybe like an hour or two away from Fuji, but it was really beautiful. We got to go to all these museums that I honestly would have never even thought about going to. Like, Numazu has this deep sea museum, which is really, really crazy. But we were able to go to small like fishing towns and learn more about the history of like, the people there in these small, like little, like a legit villages on the coast where everybody knows your name, right? It's like a physical cheers. But yeah, like that experience and learning more about the people, being part of the actual like creative process for, a professional TV show is really, eye-opening for me. And it was really kind of like what drew me into like, you know what, I want to be a part of this. I want to get this chance to be hired to do stuff like this. That would be really cool.
You just hit something like a memory locked away for me. You said you were there around 2011, right?
2012.
Okay, never mind. I was about to say, did you see an impact from the tsunami, but you weren't there?
Kind of, yeah. While everybody else was trying to find a way to go home, I was the one going, show me everything.
Let me in.
Let me in. Yeah.
Is there any like experiences or anything, any tips you want to give to people trying to go there, trying to visit? I know everyone like always asks, but you never know because someone might tell you something different. Is there any like travel tips, anything like that, or?
It's really difficult because I think I mean, this has to do with like the whole purpose of like the meaning behind why I chose the name Frame of Travel. Everybody has their own unique interests and experiences that they want to experience when they come out here. So I think if you really want to come out here and if you really want to enjoy yourself, just look up stuff that people that have similar interests are doing. So like, for example, if you like the music scene, okay, well, if you're into hip hop, well, there's some hip hop clubs out here that you could go into. If you like reggae, there's even reggae clubs out here. There's even underground clubs for varieties of music that I've never even heard of before. That stuff is out here. And if that's what you really want to do, but you're following, some online websites like top 10 things to do in Tokyo, number 1, Tokyo Tower, you're gonna have a shitty time, but like on the other side, if you really love the culture, but all you're doing is going to Shibuya Crossing, you're kind of missing out on a lot of really good stuff. I would say get your butt to Kamakura, visit all those temples, enjoy the scenery and stuff. So yeah, I guess my tip in a nutshell is just don't follow the basic paths that these online websites give you. Personalize your trip, or else you're not going to have a good time. Everybody always says, go to Tokyo for 3 days, go to Kyoto for 4 days, and spend 2 days in Osaka. But I mean, if you don't like culture and temples, you're going to have a horrible time in Kyoto. Another tip, I guess, would be don't overpack your itinerary. You're going to want to spend more time in the places than you actually allocate time for.
So, well, speaking on that, is there any places you would tell people to avoid? Like extremely let down touristy places?
Let down touristy places?
Like, everyone comes here, and, they're just like, so if I show up, there's going to be like thousands of people packed into here, and you won't get the full experience kind of places? Because I can imagine Tokyo Tower's like that.
Well, like, it depends on the time of year, right? Mm. Like, if you go out to Harajuku early in the morning, you're not going to be crowded in like a sardine can as if you were going there in the afternoon or in the late evening. It's still a nice place to go to. Roppongi, depending on where you go in the Roppongi area, can be nice to kind of check out. But I mean, it depends. Are you there to go drink? Are you there to go clubbing, etc.? Okay, well then Roppongi is a probably decent area, as well as Shibuya and Shinjuku. It just really depends on where you want to go and what your hobbies are.
Okay. Is there any places you recommend? Like, be like, you must do this when you're here. And for me, I want to go off the beaten path. Yeah, I'll probably spend a day looking at the touristy stuff, because that way it can be like, yeah, I saw the sights. But I want to go travel, see the things that people don't tend to go, like the back streets of Akihabara. They're like the little shops. I would love to go look at the little shops, because you never know what you might find. Is there like any place that you would be like, you must go here and spend a day?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. I guess the most basic answer would be Kamakura. But aside from that, I would say making a day trip to Amano Hashidate in the north side of Kyoto towards the Sea of Japan is definitely worth it. That's something that not really many people know about or do. Very, very beautiful scenic spot. That's my recommendation.
Okay. Well, it's butt fuck early for me. So, is there any final thoughts? Is there any like last minute, like, hey, if you're coming here, there's this, or is there any like last minute things you want to say to the people? And go ahead and plug yourself and put everything there. Everything's going to be in the description below, but feel free to take your time and do that now.
I guess just prepare your expectations before you come out here. Luckily, we're at a day and age where you don't necessarily have to worry too much about the language barrier. There's a lot, trust me, there's been a huge improvement on the amount of English that's out here. If you want to come and visit, tourism out here is just really readily available, to be honest. But definitely give yourself time to enjoy the experiences, especially if it's your first time out here. There's nothing worse than feeling rushed. Like you spent 15 minutes at Tokyo Tower, 15 minutes at Skytree. Sure, you were able to hit up all these big spots before the end of the day, but you're not going to keep any memories from those spots. I think keeping those memories is far more important rather than just, ticking off a check mark to saying that, okay, I did this. And I think it'll help you kind of appreciate the area a little bit more and avoid summer. Summer's just a death trap of sweat and just it's just so bad. But if you're gonna come in the early early spring or late fall. That's my recommendation. And aside from that, yeah, on social media, I'm most active on Instagram as a photographer. After all, on Frame of Travel, I'm active on Twitter as well. That's where I do basically my conversation with everybody. Twitch as well. And this year, I'm hoping to get started on YouTube finally and be a little bit more serious about that. So if you're interested and like my personality and I didn't annoy you for the past hour-ish or so, then come hang out.
Like I said, everyone, everything's going to be down below. Feel free to check them out. I'm going to give links to everything from Twitter to your YouTube channel is still up there, right?
Yeah.
I'll put that down there. I'll put everything related to him down below. Victor, thank you again for this opportunity. I love chatting with you. I appreciated it.
Oh, definitely. Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity.
So until next time, guys, I'll catch you later. Bye-bye.
Cheers.